We're gonna take a look at horizontal litter rigging. So I've pre-rigged a bunch here on my horizontal litter. We'll look at this, then we'll get a patient in here, and then we'll look at what it looks like when we're actually against the cliff as well. We have our bridle for the horizontal litter that I've chosen to use here. It's a fixed length bridle. So we have this fixed length bridle with 2 pieces of webbing. Whatever materials we're using there doesn't really matter. But I do need to make sure that I'm using the shorter pieces of material that go to the head of the litter and the longer pieces so that the patient doesn't end up head down. We want them slightly head up or flat or slightly head up. Those are going to go into, in this case, my tri-link, which goes directly into my master point and my long-tailed interlocking bowlines. We've configured this with these fixed length bridles with a pretty low profile so that when we're doing a horizontal litter orientation, when we're going over an edge transition at the top, a really low profile facilitates that process and makes that more reasonable. A higher profile makes moving around on the cliff a little bit easier, but oftentimes the crux is in fact the edge transition. So that's why we've made the low profile configuration here. Let's see, so I've pre-rigged as much as I can, which is to say I've gotten my bridle in, I've gotten my long-tailed bowlines in, I've adjusted the lengths of these that I know that are going to be just about right. This one's going to go to my patient, this one's going to go to me as the attendant. I've gone ahead and put in my purcells that are going to attach my patient in here. I've configured these so that I don't have anything that will scrape against the cliff on this side when we're up against the cliff there. So I make sure that there's no beaners or cord that's hanging out on the outside of the furthest out rail. The beaners on these are not cross-loaded in any weird way, so the gates are clean. They're not hitting any of the bars. Beaners on these aren't going to hit any of the bars. It's all pretty clean. In this case, with the horizontal litter configuration, the foot support isn't really super important because we're going to be mostly in the horizontal orientation. For myself, I'll have the patient will be connected to the litter with their X configuration with the purcells and the litter straps. That'll be their primary. Their secondary will be the tail of the bowlines. For me, my secondary will be the tail of the bowlines. I'm going to use as my primary jigger here. I've chosen to use the Aztec so that I can pull down and have progress capture close to my harness. I could also use a purcell or any other number of things there. I want to have at least a little bit of adjustability so that I can get my length right when I'm underneath the litter and moving around with it. I think that'll get us set. We'll obviously need to move a little bit of this out of the way to get our patient in here. We'll get our patient in, we'll look at that, and then we'll get on the side of the cliff. All right, we've got our patient in the litter here. Let's take a quick look at the rigging we've got on our patient. You can see that X configuration with the purcells there, going on both sides. You can see on this side, there is a beaner that kind of sticks out beyond the profile of the edge of the litter. We know that this is the side that will not be against the cliff. And on the other side, we can see that there's none that stick out there. We've got the litter straps not on top of his knees. And then on his torso, we've got them crossed so that it's not anywhere near his neck, not impeding his airway. We're making sure to be careful about what we put under his arms and whether those things are going to be uncomfortable, and considering whether we need to trap his arms or not. We have gone ahead and tied him into the long-tailed bowline as well. We have chosen for clarity in this situation not to use the litter shield, although certainly a litter shield for patients in the horizontal orientation do offer a lot of protection for their face if that is appropriate. My patient here is lying on his back and without a vacuum mattress, and we aren't really looking at patient packaging considerations, just attachments. Obviously, depending on the condition of the patient, we might adapt any of this to adjust to the needs of a particular patient. So now that we've got the litter hanging in here, we'll take a look at my configuration, how I'm attached and how I'm going to move myself around. I'll say first off that we've set this up so that we're at the base. Oftentimes you're configuring this so that you're doing a lower and you're rigging it at the top. So you have to do a bit of anticipation of how you pull the bowlines tight up there to make sure that you get the adjustments right and get those right before you do the edge transition. So that might be slightly different. I have gone ahead and chosen to use my chest harness integrated into my sit harness, giving myself kind of a full body setup here, which I think is a good default position when I'm working with a horizontal litter and high angle work. And I've also chosen to use my Aztec as my primary attachment, which I've attached into the connector strap between my chest and sit harness. And then also the other end of that is connected up into the master point of the bowlines. Okay, great. So with my Aztec, with my jigger, I can go ahead and pull myself in. And you can see this litter is not quite horizontal. If there actually was a patient in here with a little bit more mass in their upper body than in their lower body, then this thing would sit a little bit flatter. But even if it's a tiny bit heads up, that's okay. So I can easily pull myself up in here. And in the end, I want my position to be one where I'm able to be right underneath the litter and basically have it in my lap so that I can hold onto the litter with my arms here, legs back, legs out against the wall, and help them keep the litter out away from the wall. So I'm ultimately in this position. If I'm rigging this from the top so that I am rigging for a lowering edge transition, this is what I'm shooting for. So a pretty close in rigging here, which allows me to do this. Obviously, if I'm into my sit harness and not a full body chest harness here, then this is going to be a little bit longer. And I can do this with a sit harness, just a sit harness as well, but I think this is a good position. And that's more or less what I'm shooting for. Having the Aztec here allows me the flexibility to be able to adjust myself and move around if I need to get up and deal with my patient in whatever way or manage different types of terrain. I can get higher or lower on it.